Hi there, everybody, and welcome to this Facebook Live presentation of Live from the Course, a co-production of GCSA TV and Golf Course Management Magazine. I'm Scott Hollister, the editor-in-chief of GCM, and I hope you are safe and healthy wherever it is you are joining us today. You know, it goes without saying that we are all navigating through some pretty interesting and difficult times, and the ramifications from all of that have certainly been felt throughout the golf course management industry, which is why we really wanted to do this series and why we thought it made so much sense. We're going to talk with leading superintendents from around the country to see how the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted their lives and their businesses, how they've adjusted to what's been an ever-changing landscape, and what they've learned that might help other superintendents or really become part of the new normal going forward. And for the first of those, we are excited to welcome someone that I have known for a long time, worked with for a very long time, and that is Mr. Darren Davis. Darren is the certified golf course superintendent at Olde Florida Golf Club in Naples, Florida. He has been with Olde Florida since the club opened in 1992, and that, by my count, Darren, is that 28 years with Olde Florida?
Just about, Scott, yes.
28 years or approaching that at least. Darren has obviously been a leading figure in golf course management for many years, been very, very involved both at the state level, leadership positions with the Florida GCSA, the Everglades GCSA, and the Florida Turfgrass Association. He is a board member with the Musser International Turfgrass Foundation, and he also did a stint on the National Board of Directors with GCSAA and was the association's 82nd president in 2018 and a little bit of 2019 as well. So super excited to have Darren Davis joining us. Darren, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, Scott. Thank you. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. Good to be seen at
Yep.
this point. So, well, I'll start off. Let's just start with kind of a big picture question for you. Kind of tell us what's the situation in Southwest Florida, the overall situation. Are you guys under a stay-at-home order? Just to kind of paint a picture of what life is like in Southwest Florida right now.
Well, we certainly feel very fortunate when you turn on the news and you see some of the horrific stories and the heartbreaking stories around the country. It's not that bad in Southwest Florida. Certainly, we're taking it very serious, taking all the precautions we can. But overall, we're doing okay. Governor DeSantis did do a stay-at-home order, unless you're an essential business. So we are shut down, as is the country at this point. But thankfully, through all the efforts of the GCSAA and local chapters, and just the good spirit that golf has around the country, we have been able to stay open for play.
Well, that was going to be kind of my next question specific to golf. I know it's really been a moving target, and as I mentioned in the intro, kind of a changing landscape of what golf courses are allowed to do. Are they open for play? Are basic maintenance practices being allowed? And it differs from state to state, city to city, county to county. It differs from one day to the next. Have you, as this has gone on, has golf largely been open, or what sort of specific limitations have you guys faced in the state of Florida?
So in Southwest Florida, golf was never shut down. There are a few counties on the East Coast that were hot spots, Palm Beach County being one, that did have their golf shut down. I understand it's getting close to opening back up, but at least in Southwest Florida, we have been able to stay open for play. Certainly has been an anxious time, looking for emails every day from our state association, our lobbying firm, as well as GCSAA to see where we stand. So the communication has been exceptional, and that's been a positive, Scott. But yes, we are open for play.
Yeah, that's been, I think, been a key throughout all of this, is just open lines of communication with things changing as quickly as they have been. It's been super important for local regional associations, for GCS, everyone, just to stay in touch with their membership and make sure they have the latest information. So sounds like you have been among, at least in terms of golf courses and superintendents, among the fortunate ones whose operations have continued. How has the club adjusted to all of this? I know that you have a bit of a high season and a low season there. You were probably just as this was starting to wind down from your high season. So overall, how have your members adjusted to this changing landscape?
Well, as you know, it's been a fluid situation. So in Florida is not unlike other parts of the country where there have been some changes. most currently, we are shut down as far as any food service, beverage service. The clubhouse is shut down. So our current state is golf is limited to the member only. The member can bring the spouse as their guest, but no other family or no other guest are allowed. We just felt more comfortable, the membership, the board of directors, and how it related to staff, that we knew who was coming through the doors. That made it a much more palatable situation. And like everyone, there's anxiety involved. So that's our current state. Interestingly, even with those restrictions in place, and a fair amount of our play is from guest play, we are rounds tracking as we have in the past. So what we're seeing is the members that were still here, that are still here, are staying here. It's not a bad place to be in Southwest Florida. Obviously, as you know, the heat and the humidity is being seen as a positive for this virus. So if you're here, it's not too bad. And we're seeing that they're staying. So our rounds are actually been consistent, even though it's only member rounds and no guest rounds. But there are certainly a lot of restrictions in place that we might talk about later on, what we're doing here as far as the golf play.
Yeah, I was going to kind of segue into that. Obviously, that's great news that you're tracking so well on rounds. And you know, I have heard anecdotally from other superintendents throughout the country where clubs are open for play, even with altered tee sheets, and perhaps they're spreading out tee times and they're limiting, much like you described there, limiting the numbers of people. The rounds are really tracking up. I had one in particular say, we're doing, and this was a public facility, saying we're doing weekend numbers every single day of the week. And that was with a limited amount of spots on a tee sheet. So if we can look for some good news for some facilities, and clearly not everyone is lucky enough to enjoy that, that has been a definite positive for a handful of folks, and hopefully that will, as more and more courses open up for play, that will continue. So specific to how you've prepared the golf course from a playing standpoint, what things have you done? There's, I think, as this is all developed, there's been some standard techniques that superintendents and folks setting up the course have done. Specific to Olde Florida, how have you guys prepared it for play?
So I know I'll miss a few things, Scott, but I prepared a document that has precautions we're taking at Olde Florida, and that document is on my website. And the website is my full name, Darren, D-A-R-R-E-N, middle initial J, Davis, D-A-V-I-S, GCS.com. So I'm sure I'll miss some things, but if anyone needs that document, it's there. I did a lot of gathering through social media, through our state association, of different policies that we've implemented here. So as far as Olde Florida, the cup being the primary focus, where the ball goes in the hole, we went with the 2-inch PVC insert that was cut to a 3-inch length. We've asked the members to not touch the flag sticks. No one should touch the flag sticks other than our staff in the morning. Our staff sanitizes the flag sticks and that PVC insert every morning as they're changing the pin. All of the trap rakes have been pulled for golfers. All the ball washers have been pulled. The scorecard card has been pulled. Really, limiting as many touch points as we possibly could was very important to us. So we do have bottled water on the golf course. Those cooler lids are sanitized every single morning by my staff. They are not latched down, so they're easy to open up. And then my staff has gloves on as well at all times throughout the day. Our staff hand sanitizer obviously being a little bit of a challenge, so we went to the CDC website and we found out that for every 1 gallon of water, they recommend a 1/3 cup of bleach. So we're actually using a 1/2 cup, but we're able to get bleach. And so each employee has an individual spray bottle that anything they touch, they sanitize immediately as they leave it. We also have one employee that stays in the facility the entire day and does nothing but sanitize touch points around the facility. The door chains, any of the equipment. All the equipment is pressure washed 1 time a week as well. So we're being very precautious. We're keeping our social distancing of all the staff. We've had multiple meetings, which are all conducted outside. I do have 2 assistants. And what we're doing is we're rotating as assistants, 7 days on, 7 days off. We felt it was important. They had one office they shared. They needed to be separated. And with me being here 6 days a week, we're able to get everything done. And to be honest, God, everyone's just happy they're playing golf. This is a lot of angst in our society right now. And as you know, being in the business as long as you have, research has shown that golf courses and the environment and all the things that you enjoy around the facility are good for mental and physical health. So they're happy to be here. They're happy to be playing golf. So.
Yeah, and I'm sure that extends to your staff who are happy to be working. Obviously, you know, the numbers of folks who have unfortunately lost their jobs, not only in our industry but nationwide, is pretty staggering. Are you running full staffs every day? How have you organized your maintenance team to accomplish all those things? And how quickly did they take to some of these new duties and new things that they had to kind of figure out on the golf course?
Well, it was a process. They didn't really grab the brevity of this situation at first. So we had multiple meetings, but now they're all aware of it. Most of my staff lives in a similar area in Naples called Naples Manor, and they live together in houses. So we didn't go with a split shift as far as the staff. What we did do is alternate the starting time so they're not all come in through the door at the same time. But the fact that they live together in about 4 or 5 houses, it didn't make much sense to split them as far as the staff. My assistants, yes, we could split them. But we do alternate start times. The board that they come in with, the assignment board, the task tracker board comes in. You look at your assignment and you immediately walk out. They've been told not to congregate in the building. Only 6 people are allowed in the interior space at any time. There is no time clock being used. Currently, the assistants report the hours to the office manager, so there's no touch point there. But after several meetings, they understand the severity, and somebody in their area had contracted the disease, so it kind of hit home then, and they realized that, hey, this is serious stuff, and so they take it very serious. We've asked them to take all the things that they're learning here and what they're being asked to do, take those same practices home. Because we do understand they ride in a car together to get here. Now that's their mode of transportation. So we said, when you get home, follow these same practices. And so far, knock on wood, everyone's been safe and doing well.
Well, that's great. In terms of day-to-day maintenance, first off, and then maybe I'll ask you to talk about any projects. Aside from not having bunker rakes, are you still? Is it status quo? In terms of the types of maintenance that you're doing, and on the kind of the bigger project scale, have you been able to? Has any of this allowed you? I know you're definitely hitting the time of the year when projects are king at Olde Florida, but have you had more opportunity earlier to begin tackling some of that stuff because of the impact of all of this?
We have, but it wasn't directly towards that means. The club decided in April, we normally are open 7 days a week in April, as you're saying. It's our high season. This is our busy winter golf season. By May 1, we start to slow down somewhat, and we would start to close on Monday normally in May. But we decided in April, in order to give the clubhouse a deep cleaning, actually just before April, but to give the clubhouse a deep cleaning, we would start closing every single Monday. And so the staff is cleaning the clubhouse inside and out every Monday, and not just the Monday, obviously, it's every day, but that was a deep cleaning day. So being able to close on Monday enabled my staff to jump on a few things early, not with core aeration, but with solid time aeration, to do some loosening of some compaction on tees and greens and traffic areas. So that's been one positive, of being closed on the Monday.
I had noted that you had created the coronavirus document for your facility, and it's for those who, and I would encourage you, those watching this, to go check that out. It is an unbelievably thorough document. I was curious, was that created new? Was that based on some sort of an existing maybe crisis management plan that you and the club already had in place? Because as I said, it's really unbelievably thorough, and it touches on a lot of different points. So I was just curious how that came to be.
It was a new document, but I'm a big proponent of mockery as the finest form of flattery. And it came through conversations with my peers. One in particular, a former assistant, Jim Whalen, is at Calusa Pines. Jim is married to a healthcare professional. He took it very seriously, very quickly. We had multiple conversations. And then one Friday night, I'm on the phone with Greg Finnegar from Johns Island. He called to talk about something. In the meantime, Matt Taylor from Royal Poinciana, good friends. Matt calls me at 6 o'clock on a Friday night. We talk for another half hour. And so that night I went to bed saying, okay, it's time to get serious. So Saturday morning, set my alarm to be the first one here, came in, immediately pulled the time cards. So that's been well over a month ago. It's 6 weeks or so ago. And sat in my office on a Saturday and started pounding it out. And so I did create it from scratch with ideas from other people.
Do you have
and then it's been modified.
Oh, breaking up a little bit there. Is that are others aware that you have that document? If people ask just to kind of take a look at it and maybe so they could steal some ideas for their own related kind of piece of documentation?
Yeah, I'm a big believer, Scott, as you know, in social media and sharing. So
Sure.
once I completed it, I threw it out on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all my different social media outlets. And then as I've got new ideas from the Florida chapter of the Golf Course Superintendents Association of America, they had a document they put out, and I added one or two things from that document. So I've done it on the blog, and I pushed it out through social media. And others have called me looking for it, and I've directed it to them. So I certainly encourage anyone, obviously, to look at that one and bring me ideas that I missed. I asked a couple of my peers to review it and say, hey, what did I miss? And that's something that the Florida document came out that suggested having another department leader walk through your area to see what you might have missed. So I'm a big believer in that. And for example, the scorecard stand that was on hole number 2, we were about 5 days late in bringing that in. We realized all of a sudden that, hey, we left one thing out there. And so, we corrected that. But
yeah, it's pretty amazing. You think that you have everything covered and that you've planned, but you do come to the realization as we move through this that none of us have been through anything quite like this before. I mean, in your neck of the woods, certainly you have to plan for hurricanes and how do you prepare in the run up to an oncoming storm, and how do you hunker down? How do you recover? And those things make sense to us. And I think our brains normally, just as something like this develops, our brains naturally kick into that same mode, but you just forget about things. And I've been through it myself. I live in for those who don't know, I live in the Kansas City area, GCSA headquarters in Lawrence, about 45 minutes drive. I've been in the office a few times since we went to a work from home situation. And each time I thought, man, I've got everything. I can't possibly think of a scenario where there's anything else here that I'm going to need. And sure enough, you you get 3 or 4 days down the line and there's something you've forgotten. So gosh, having the more eyes on things, the better, at least in terms of making sure you have all of your bases covered, whether it's getting ready to produce a magazine or maintain a golf course.
yeah. Yeah, so Saturday morning when I did that, I finished midday or so, and I immediately pushed it out to my 2 assistants, my office manager, and they're the first to review it. So they had some ideas that they added, and we also jumped on buying products we needed. We had enough N95 masks for the guys for the spraying, so we were good there. But we didn't have a lot of sanitizing wipes and sanitizing spray. So that's one thing we jumped on, and we talked about in the intro. There's a new norm in place. So I found out today that my sanitizing wipe dispenser that you normally find in gyms, for example, should arrive this week. The thermometer, the gun thermometer, just arrived. So we're able to take temperature of the crew members if there's any doubt. Sanitizing wipes, the new norm, certainly on my desk.
Yep.
As well as the hand sanitizer, which we ran out of the Purell. So through our Cisco food service, we're able to get the spray stuff. So my office manager just labels the bottle hand sanitizer, and you can sanitize frequently. So I was always kind of a clean freak, but it certainly is taking it to a new level.
Yeah, ratchets it up a little bit here. So, well, let's talk a little big picture here as we wind up. and I don't want to, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you spoke earlier about the importance of the game of golf, especially in trying times, and how the research has shown the many benefits of playing the game of golf. I'll just ask you, how important has it been for you, for your crew, and really your members to have the club available, even in a somewhat changed state, to kind of to get some fresh air and have a little break from everything that's been going on?
It's been crucial, Scott. I mean, we're all in this together as a society, regardless of what political side you stand on, regardless of what location you are in this country. We're in this together, and I'm sure I can speak for myself, have had a tremendous amount of angst. You mentioned hurricanes earlier. We're used to those. I'm a 52-year resident of Florida. I've been in Naples almost 28 years. You're used to them. You hate to say this, but you almost wish that this was a hurricane, because there's an ending point. You know how to prepare. You get ready. It comes in. It blows through. You're done. You pick your pieces back up and you go on. So there's still some anxiety about what the new norm's going to be. But it's certainly, as you know, I'm a big proponent of health and wellness and exercise, and I often go home at lunch and jump on the stationary bike. Well, with the gyms closed, that was my outlet. So after 4 or 5 days going, I can't do it, I forced myself. I left at lunch break and I went and got my road bike, and I had to put some air in the tires because it's been a few years. But I pop on my Strava app and I get my rides in every day. And so that's my physical well-being, is I get my exercise in. Same for the members. We have members that have never walked and carried the golf course here. We do have a caddy program, so they weren't used to carrying their own bags, but they can't get their exercise in, so they strapped it on and started walking. So I can see them, the happiness they are by just being here. And I'm fortunate, as you said, we're fortunate to be able to work. I have a lot of friends in the restaurant industry and other industries, retail, that aren't working. And I talk to them on the phone or text messages or whatever. You can see and hear the depression in their voices. And I encourage them to go out and exercise, take a walk, do something to make yourself feel better. Certainly not turning to food or alcohol, and finding something healthy to fulfill your day. It's been a challenge for everybody, but golf, as you know, has stood the test of time, and it's certainly been a positive outlet for our membership.
Yeah, that's great. That's great to hear. How do you think, specific to our industry, golf course management, how do you think this will? I'm asking you to look in your crystal ball a little bit here, but how do you think all of this is going to change things going forward? Are there tweaks or changes that have been implemented that you think might stick around? Are bunker rakes a thing of the past? Something like that. Is just take a peek into that crystal ball. How do you see this maybe changing or tweaking the industry as we move ahead?
You've known me a long time, so you know my brain doesn't shut off. It's not a good thing. My brain doesn't shut off. There's some things that I hope don't hold true. I mean, as you know, most people, we're individual cards. That's why another reason we're not having guest play is we want to make sure that every member had an individual card, and that's fairly common around the country. So that's one thing I hope doesn't stick, Scott. Traffic is certainly a challenge when it comes to golf course maintenance.
Right.
I think that, prior to this, leaving the flagstick in was becoming accepted. It was kind of some grumbling at first, and then it was slowly being accepted. I think that's going to be much more accepted. People aren't going to touch it. I think the cleanliness hopefully sticks for everybody. I know that there's a lot of new norms here in our building. We've always been very clean, but my good friend Jim Whalen, I was talking to early on when this thing was just getting started, saying, Darren, I will never, my building will be as clean like this from this point on. So we're taking it serious. I think those things will change. There'll be a new norm in regards to that. I talked to a number of my peers that are working on some antibacterial cleaning products for equipment. So instead of just a soap, they asked me would I use an antibacterial. I said, that's a good point. That is another thing that we could be doing in the future. So it'll be interesting, Scott. I think, the bunkers haven't been too bad. So I'm not a proponent of not putting the bunker rakes in, but time will tell. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I don't imagine there's not many rules of golf implications from some of this stuff. It's just more common practices, and I guess you get to see what your clientele that play the course are willing to accept, and if you try to keep things going once hopefully we return to normal, you'll see how many things stick.
Well,
Going,
and they're used to their norm too. They're used to raking the bunkers, and so it was different for them. They were like, well, let's just leave them in early on. Let's just leave them in, and after a couple days, just the angst, it's like, yeah, I really think we should pull these things. Trust me, it'll be okay. And we had about a week or so, we left the sand scoops on the cart with the buckets. This goes back well over a month, but I went to my counterpart at the club and he says, yeah, I'm with you, Darren. I think we should pull these sand scoops. And I said, Tom, we'll do it. My staff will do it. We'll fill the divots. So,
right.
but even then I had some emails from members saying, are you sure? We'll just sanitize the scoops. We'll do it. So,
Yeah, changes for everybody. Well, what finally, I guess what I'll ask you is just what advice would you give to other superintendents? And again, everyone's in a different situation. Some folks are, I know just earlier today, or earlier, I'm not sure if it was exactly today, but the state of Michigan has finally relented. They are going to begin opening up for golf play. So superintendents who may have been locked out there are beginning to come back. But just from your years of experience, maybe you could even direct this to some folks who are new to the industry and are going, what have I gotten myself into? What words of advice would you have for superintendents as we continue to navigate this and kind of figure out, where we're all headed here in this industry?
I have several thoughts come to mind. I like the saying that attitude, not aptitude, determines altitude. So keeping a positive attitude is extremely important, especially in these trying times. Being seen as a positive individual. One way to keep a positive attitude, as we've talked about, is exercise, staying healthy, eating right, keeping good mental health, realizing that the job is extremely important, but your life's more important. So good mental health, good physical health. And then communication. I'm a huge communication guy, as you know. So whether you communicate through Twitter, social media, hopefully in person when this thing's all over, on the phone, text messaging, communicate, talk, ask, seek input, find out what other people are doing. There's not one person that has all the knowledge. As I said earlier, mockery is the finest form of flattery. I don't claim to have found all these things on my own, because I didn't. So communication is extremely important. I think that's what I would leave it with is just stay positive, stay healthy, and continue to communicate with your peers.
Yeah, and I know you have probably found some solace out in the boat doing some fishing. I've seen on Facebook and Twitter as you've gone out. Do you have plans hitting the water this weekend?
I'm hoping Sunday. Sunday is my fishing day, and it's interesting times. I normally keep just enough to eat one meal if I'm lucky enough to catch some keeper fish. But the weather's been so warm; it's been great fishing. So Sunday mornings, the marinas are closed as far as any baits or whatever, but the boat docks are open. So I trailer to a place about an hour south of Naples, so very distant. And then I can go down 15, 20 minutes into the Everglades, which is very distant from everybody. And so I've actually had at least one meal of fish every week for the last month, sometimes two meals a week. So that is my getaway, Scott, from work, as you know, is hoping to get out fishing. And yes, I do hope to get out Sunday. Hopefully I can show you some pictures on Facebook.
Well, that's awesome. Well, Darren, I appreciate it. Before we finally sign off here, I want to refer you to a couple different things. We're going to be these videos are going to be available on the Facebook pages of both GCSA TV as well as GCM Magazine. So from our perspective, just if you don't follow us already on Facebook, go to just search GCM Magazine. You'll find us, and a lot of great stuff there. Not just this video stories. There's additional content available on both GCSA TV's website related to the COVID-19 pandemic and its impact on golf. If you go to gcmonline.com, you will find a coronavirus link in the upper right corner that has a ton of additional content where we're telling the stories superintendents and how they are adjusting to everything that's been taking place. And finally, I would refer you to the GCSA website at gcsa.org. Some amazing resources and information there. If you're a superintendent or a turfgrass manager who is just trying to make their way through this pandemic, there's a lot of great advice and help for you there. So among those, hopefully we can help you kind of keep yourself moving through this and hopefully come out a better turfgrass manager on the other side. So Darren, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it, and all of your insights. So thank you, sir.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, Scott. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Thank you everyone who took time to tune in today. We'll do it again real soon. And on behalf of everyone, thanks and have a good day. Stay well, stay healthy.